The clock will start the meeting. Call to roll. Fire. Peschel. Tompkins.
Here.
Varsho.
Here.
Wagner. Witzel.
Yes.
Fisher.
Here.
Spiros.
Yes.
O'Reilly.
Yes.
Handler is not present, absent. 9 of the 10. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item C, public comment period. Correspondence. At this time, I will recognize those members of the public who have indicated a desire to address the council. Upon recognition by me, persons may address the council first stating their name and address. The council may act on emergency matters introduced by members of the public. I'm also going to read what everybody on the orange sheet that you filled out to let you know the exact way that it's going to work tonight. There will be a segment of common council meeting in which the public will be allowed to address the council. In order to assure that everyone will have an equal opportunity to speak, the following rules will apply. Please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes, and I will time 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is up. When the timer goes off, then respectfully, please sit down. Thank you. You must sign up before the council meeting if you wish to speak. If your name is not on here, we cannot add you because the meeting has started. Please be respectful with your comments. And if you hear someone's made the same comment, please do not add it again unless it is something that pertains to something special that you need to comment on. And I thank you for that. Our first citizen is William Panker. Mic is not on.
Push the button.
Got it now?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
William Penker, 600 Sycamore Avenue in Marshfield. For full disclosure, I am a former member of the Plan Commission. I served on the Plan Commission during the development and approval of the 2015 Downtown Master Plan and the 2017-2037 Comprehensive Plan. And I am a member of the West 2nd Street Project Oversight Ad Hoc Committee. On May 26th, at the Community Development Authority's public hearing dealing with the creation of Redevelopment District Number 1, sometimes referenced the 2nd Street Project, I presented a statement in support of that proposal. The 3 documents I cited on May 26th is the Comprehensive Plan, the Downtown Plan, and an Economic Development Plan. List over 30 direct and indirect references supporting the proposal. In addition, they list over 24 groups that can be involved with economic development, urban renewal, and the advancement and enhancement of the downtown and near downtown. If we remove City Hall departments, we have less than a dozen, probably closer to 8 or 9 key players and key shakers and movers. These include community partners noted on page 8 of the Economic Action Plan, as well as an organization with a specific interest in downtown and near downtown. And that organization has a recently developed strategic plan from Main Street Marshfield. By my count, that plan has direct and indirect references favorable or applicable to the proposal on 12 pages. This includes 1 page devoted to an issue presented by one of the speakers at the hearing, and this was noise and noise reduction. The list of groups includes the Economic Development Board, Main Street Marshfield, and by extension, the Business Improvement District, the Plan Commission, and the Chamber of Commerce, or MACI. The key community partners include banks, local business, real estate firms, construction interests, and developers. At the hearing on May 26th and the Common Council meeting on June 14th, none of the groups addressed the 2 questions posed by the hearing: conformity and feasibility. None of the groups provided comments for, against, or neutral to the position. Their silence and their absence denied you and the public food for thought, food for discussion. Their silence denied you and the public positions to be debated, supported, or rejected. At this point, go forward without their public input, and I urge you to support the proposal. And I'm also a member of the Historic Preservation Commission, and speaking solely for myself as a commissioner there, I want to thank Mark Nelson, Ashley Frederick, and the ladies from Studio 211 for expressing their concerns about the historic nature of West 3rd Street and making sure that that is maintained. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Ray LeBlanc.
Coach.
Certainly.
This is one of the talk. Thank you. Okay, my name is Raymond LeBlanc from right across the street here at 309 West 6th. I'm here today representing my Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, and his domain. We're in an earthly court here, but we're, as a Christian, here to represent him. And he says to occupy till I come, to preach righteousness and justice into the streets and to the people, and let them be aware that he has a kingdom that we're all going to face one day. And we were just trying to encourage people Saturday at the Wenzel Park that there's a heaven to gain and an earth to hell to shun. And we were just out there trying to warn the people there, which you're going to hear the other side real good pretty soon, I bet. But I wasn't even going to come. I didn't know this was happening. But this is a letter of the Marshfield Pride site. This is what they wrote to their people. And I want to clarify a couple of things that are in here that aren't true. It says, Marshfield, unfortunately, hate is continuing to spread in our community. The protesters, that's me, who were removed, we weren't removed, we were not removed from Marshfield Pride, have demanded an audience. I have not demanded an audience. So this is the people that are going to come up here and try to tell you that I'm a hater, okay? Bunch of lies. They told them to write an email to the council stating you support pride and equality in our city. Email the mayor and the city administrator, Steve Buckridge. Attend the meeting June 28th here at 6 o'clock and share your voice, sharing how important it is to have support of our government, city government. Now, that's Wenzel Family Park we're talking about. Everybody's aware of what happened there last Saturday, I'm hoping. And the Wenzel family, we have direct contact. Tom's married into the family, and we've heard directly from them. One of them, they can't make it here, but they were disgusted, and they put a lot of money into that park, and it's a family park. To represent family things, good things. What happened there? Well, let me skip here. I don't have a whole lot of time, but Governor DeSantis from Florida thinks this matter of the drag queens infiltrating and interacting with our children is such a vile thing that he's trying to pass legislation that it will be a felony charge for them to interact with our children. Same thing is happening in Texas. Here's a letter from the Texas representative, Brian Slayton. Drag shows are no place for a child. I would never take my child to a drag show, and I know Speaker Dave Plellan and Republican colleagues wouldn't either. I'll be filing legislation to address this issue in the near future. A Texas lawmaker announced on Monday he will introduce legislation to ban minors from attending drag shows in the state. Senator Slayton, a Republican, said the law was necessary. I regret that. The event, the drag, this is the event name, Drag the Kids to a Pride Drag Show. It was advertised as family-friendly spinoff of the bar's Champagne Drag Brunch Show. A viral video from the event shows children watching drag performers dance and tipping them with cash. Now, when they came in here last Saturday, they came with a fistful of dollars and they handed them out and they encouraged other people to put some money into. And they did this. It's sort of like programming. All right, if this kind of stuff belongs in an adult entertainment, in a bar or behind scenes, but not out in a family park. That's why we were upset. That's why we were there and protesting. Then somewhere along the line, after a couple hours, my wife Jane notices one of the dollar bills is sticking out of one of the guy's crotch. Now, you know, this is getting out of hand. And I'm sorry that this was allowed. We tried to stop it from happening, and I think that's about all I have to say about it. You get the point, and let them speak their other side now.
Thank you, Ray. Next, Jane LeBlanc.
Also, she's got a little thing, so when she's talking, go along with the names, right? Yes. Here we have. Yeah.
I'm Jane LeBlanc. I live on West 6th Street, just down the street, and I'm from Marshfield. And this is a letter that I wrote, emailed to the police chief, the Pride Committee people, and others. What I write is regarding 18 June on Saturday, the recent drag queen Pride event at the Wenzel Family Park highly entertained those with low morals. The promotional poster for this event suggested that attendees bring money to tip the queens. Furthermore, the children, unfamiliar with tipping an entertainer, were provided the money by the men dressed resembling a girl, acronym for drag. The tipping began with a seemingly innocent placement of provided dollar bills, children tipping, hand-to-hand contact. What I witnessed perhaps an hour into the Queen's performances was what conscious, moral adults call grooming. One of the men dressed as a woman, drag queen, had a dollar bill inserted in his pelvic area. I didn't witness if the man placed it near his private area or if a child did. Makes me wonder what transpired from this suggestive form of tipping, seeing that the event was scheduled until 10 p.m. 3 city police officers were told of what I saw in the crowd of the man with the dollar hanging from his genital area. I guess the officers assigned to maintain order discerned that the wandering of my leashed puppy had more importance than going over to see if this dollar bill was going to do any more, if children perhaps even would be working with this suggestive form of tipping. One of the officers was approached by Mike Phil here regarding sexual drag queens, and the officer responded, "It's not my area." The following day was Father's Day. A Wenzel family member was informed of this lewd behavior in the park, named in honor of his family. Too bad that the state statute for lewd and lascivious behavior doesn't come under what the state calls lewd and lascivious behavior of a dollar bill near a man's gonads. Take time to educate yourself on the agenda of drag queens, including their story hour events, which probably will be coming here also, and you'll see us there too. Take more time to seek a relationship with God in His Word, the Holy Bible. Matthew 18:6 gives warning to anyone seeking to stumble a child. Queens, parents, child providers, God's message states that you ask forgiveness and repent of your actions and the involvements that you had at Saturday's event. Next, I have to the mayor, administrator, and council members. It's your duty to the moral citizens of Marshfield to keep our city clean and to prohibit events in public, such as occurred at the Wenzel Park last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago. Your tolerance for these drag queens to perform for tips was an egregious breach of trust given you by we citizens, and you have expressly breached the trust of the most innocent, our children. Allow me to educate you on how some drag queens identify themselves. At the website Scary Mommy, quote, 130 drag queen names will have you gagging. That's what they call laughing in drag queen terms. The following list of sexually charged innuendos are names of adult men dressed resembling a girl. If you're offended by the names, I won't say I'm sorry until you say first that you're sorry to the public and to the children that were in the midst of drag queens with money in their crotch, Mr. Wolfgram. Mimi, I'm first, is one name. Pandora Box, Head of Hair. Eileen Dover, Pat McCrotch.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Angina.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Your 5 minutes is
Head
done.
of Lettuce.
I'm sorry, your 5 minutes is up.
Heidi in the Closet.
Excuse me, your 5 minutes are up.
And Nicole
You need to leave the podium. Your 5
Nicole
minutes are up.
Onoscopy.
Your 5 minutes are up. I'm sorry, you need to leave the podium and give everyone the same respect as
I
they're
will.
giving you.
You
Your
have
5
a-
minutes is
okay.
up. Your 5 minutes is up, please. Thank you. Next, Mike Phil.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Mayor T. Strake and the City Council for giving us all the opportunity to speak. Thank you for doing this. I'm Mike Phil. I'm at 507 West 7th Street. And I suppose we could talk about everybody's First Amendment rights. We had a right to be there as well as everyone else did. And I'll give you that right. But I want to echo everything that the LeBronc said, every single thing. Okay, and I think it's just very inappropriate, in my opinion and opinion of lots of others, to put impressionable children in that position and have their minds influenced negatively like that. I think it's just plain ridiculous. And I think that the city council, the city made a big mistake by issuing a permit for this kind of thing. And that's basically all I've got to say. But again, I want to echo everything that LeBlanc said. And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. Next, Dottie Schnitzler.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dottie Schnitzler, 709 South Cherry, Marshfield. Been here since 1960. Freedom of speech works both ways. The drag queen event was held and people attended. Any protesters, they were exercising their freedom also. So it seems to be a tie. Freedom of speech both ways. As a Bible-believing Christian, the story in the Bible about Sodom and Gomorrah, those two cities perished by fire. And to this day, those that have gone there as a visit say that there is not one blade of green grass. God told Noah to build an ark to survive a flood. Many did not believe him. And why did Noah do that, they thought? They were non-believers. God placed a rainbow, a rainbow, with a promise to Noah that there would not be another flood. Gay pride has a rainbow-colored flag. Not another flood is promised, but what about fire? Read the book of Revelation. Kind of scary, but God has a plan. Check it out. I and many others feel that drag queen shows are not to have children to be in attendance because of the adult theme. Thank you all in this room for this opportunity for free speech. Jesus died on the cross and took our place. We are both human and spiritual. I feel that we are more spiritual having a human experience, not the other way around. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dottie. Next, Jeff Kleiman.
Good evening. If you hear me, I'm sorry. I came here tonight to talk about the appearance of some Nazi pamphlets.
Excuse me, your name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Jeff Kleiman. I reside at 1112 West State Street here in town.
Thank you.
And I've come to talk about the distribution of packets of some Nazi pamphlets that appeared in town over the past day. I have taught at the UW here and in Stevens Point for 34 years, studied and published about American history and also the Holocaust. The point of this opportunity to address the City Council is simple. The anti-Semitic flyers scattered around parts of town are not a one-off, only a visible reminder of what millions see online, in private, shared beyond the public view. Too often, unpleasant reminders of religious and racial hatreds remain out of sight and out of mind. Therefore, why should anybody worry? We do not teach the history of prejudice in American history. This lack of knowledge helps us to forget the longest-lived prejudices we share as a nation. Racial hatred of Africans and natives. Religious bigotry against Catholics. Anti-Catholicism came with the English colonists embedded in our culture before independence. In the 1920s, Marshfield hosted a chapter of the KKK. Anti-Catholicism found expression in 1960 presidential election where John Kennedy appeared before a group of Protestant ministers in Dallas, Texas, to assure them that his loyalty was to the United States and not the Pope. We like to imagine these old prejudices have successfully been banished. We know it is not so. Our local cultural fair came about as a response to a pro-Nazi exhibit in the public library during the spring of 2003. That fall, people met to address this public display in defense of a party rooted in hate. For almost 20 years, since the spring of 2004, we have held this cultural fair with that object in mind, and we will do it again this August. In sum, what we have at our doorsteps today is a reminder of what lurks beneath the surface, raised by a political climate increasingly intolerant, happily prone to violence, proudly divisive. We cannot ignore this warning sign. We do not have the luxury of saying it's not about me. Without broadly based awareness and agreement, without public education to teach the legacy of bigotry, will our epitaph read that we were a people dedicated to tolerance, diversity, and liberty? I leave that for you to debate and discuss yourself. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Next, Aaron Kaplan.
Hi, my name is Aaron Kaplan. I live at 2511 Lorraine Street in Marshfield. First of all, I would like to thank the mayor for her proclamation of support of Pride Month and the LGBTQ plus citizens of Marshfield at the Pride event, and to the city for allowing the Pride event on June 18th to take place. And the larger point I want to make is that the city of Marshfield, which I've lived in since 2005, belongs to all of its residents. In fact, our country belongs to all of us. This city, state, and country is not a church, and therefore its laws are not to be dictated by any church or religion. In this country, we have freedom of religion, which includes freedom from religion. All of us are allowed to worship or not worship as we so choose, and no religion can be forced upon any person. Second, in this country, we have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For some people, that happiness includes loving a person of the same sex or expressing their preferred gender identity not based on the one assigned at birth, and or many other variations of self-expression and identity. This is a choice that belongs to the individual and is protected by the freedoms given to us under the Constitution and law of the land, not by any religious organization. We also have the right to peacefully gather without being harassed and threatened. I was at the Pride event. My son is a member of the LGBTQ plus community. So when people show up and threaten us with eternal damnation and tell us that we are abusing our children because we are letting them express themselves as they see fit, as who they really are, I feel that is a harassment and not, it goes past just protest. Anyway, the Pride event on June 18th was a celebration of love, acceptance, diversity, and inclusion. It was a beautiful event that I was happy and honored to be a part of. It's a shame that it was marred by hatred based on the book of a so-called loving God, in quotation marks, but still love won and will win. And again, I thank the mayor and the city for their continuing support of the LGBTQ plus community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Hannah Mine.
Hello, my name is Hannah Moyne, and I live at 311 West 5th Street. I'd like to thank you for your time, first and foremost. My legal name is Hannah Moyne, however, I go by Aspen Moyne. I use all pronouns, and I am a bisexual, gender fluid individual. I've lived in Marshfield my entire life, and I've gone to public schools my entire life as well. My main topic I would like to be talking about is the importance of representation, both in the city of Marshfield as well as schools, and the repercussions of the lack of representation in schools as well. I've struggled with mental illness my entire life. My first suicide attempt was at age 9. The main source of my depression was not feeling like I belonged, whether that was with my peers, my family, or wherever it may. I never felt a feeling of belonging. I was sheltered from my childhood, and my beliefs from the age of 8 to 14 were completely the same as my biological father's. It was not until my sophomore year in high school that I fully learned about the LGBTQIA community, and that it is all right to love who you want to love. From 8 to 14, I was very homophobic and problematic because of the extreme lack of representation and information given by the schools. Now, I'm not saying that second graders need to be told about, need to be given sexual education, not in any way, because first and foremost, the LGBTQIA plus community and its education is not in the least bit about sex. It is about who you're romantically attracted to or aren't romantically attracted to, what your gender identity is, and where you feel most comfortable and loved. It is about expressing who you are and who you've become as an individual, and who you are as an individual, and who you've become over the years as with your identity. I learned about LGBTQIA community from online, all of it. I didn't learn any of the LGBTQIA community from schools. The GCA in the public high school has a lot of backlash as well, and isn't allowed to teach certain things as well. I learned from helpful creators online who helped me to tell me that it was okay to be who God made me to be, and God made me to be a bisexual, gender fluid individual, and I am so proud of who I am in both my identity and my faith, because without this representation I received from those online individuals during quarantine in the March of 2020, I would not be here today. The fact of the matter is, suicide from LGBTQIA youth in America right now are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than a cisgender heterosexual peer of theirs. And one LGBTQ plus youth attempts suicide in America every 45 seconds. Data collected from the TrevorProject.org shows that these statistics are because of the immense lack of representation and support they have from schools and those surrounding them. The fact is that you really don't have to like LGBTQ plus people, but you do have to accept they are human beings and deserve rights just the same as you are, just the same as you do. They are just the same as you. You are not better than them, and they are not better than you. We do not follow your religion, so in that sense, we do not have to follow the rules that go along with that religion. Wisconsin, Marshfield, and the United States is not a Christian religion, and we, like Aaron said before, we do not have to follow the rules of their religion if we do not align with that. Like Christians do not have to follow Muslim rules if they do not align with that religion as well. I will fight for you to have your religious freedom, but you have to understand that we all have religious freedom, and that means we are all free to have a different or no religion. And it is not your job to change us. Thank you for your time.
Christy Renz.
All right, my name is Christy Renz. I live at 201051 County Road T, Marshfield. All right, I get pretty excited and I talk fast, so I'll try to do this a little slower. I think there needs to be a little bit of education in this room about drag shows. All right, so that's where I'm going to take this. Okay, so first of all, a drag show is entertainment, pure and simple. It is entertainment as any other thing, as movies, musicals, anything like that. It is pure entertainment. Typically, a drag show involves performers singing or lip syncing to songs while performing a pre-planned dance. The performers often don elaborate costumes and makeup. That is part of the show. All right, 5 tips for attending a drag show, so everyone knows. All right, this is from the masterclass article, and this is you can find online. Tip number 1, you tip your drag queens. That is common. Drag performers are freelance artists and often rely on tips to financially get by. Yes, they were tipped. That's what you do at drag shows. That is nothing new. It's been around forever. All right? The tips, number 2, and this is very important because this was talked about. 2, consent is key. Drag entertainers are people. Never behave in a way that makes their performers feel uncomfortable or unsafe. All right, unfortunately, the protesters, you do have your right, but they were not respectful to the drag queens. Treat drag queens with respect. There you go. And always ask for consent before touching them. You never, ever touch a drag queen. So they were not putting bills in them. They did not touch them. And that was actually a rule that was told to the audience before the show ever started. You never, ever touch drag queens like any other performer. You do not touch them without their consent. All right? And you don't take pictures. That is also another thing in drag shows. Okay? These are people, they're performers. All right? It's like a movie theater. You don't take videos unless you have consent. Number 3, be supportive of the queens. Drag performers work very hard preparing their looks and routines. Number 4, support your local drag queens. Consider attending local shows to support your hometown queens. Guess what? Most of the drag queens were from this area. They grew up and they're from this area. They're from Marshfield, Loyal, and Spencer. They were local people. Number 5, have fun. Drag shows are fun. They are never meant to be taken seriously, ever. That's the whole point. All right? Drag queens want audience members to have as much fun as they are. All right? So this was very true in Marshfield. As was said, it was a very large audience. There's probably 100 people there. There was young and old. There was families. All right? We brought our families. It was very fun. People danced. It was friends and families, all of us together having a wonderful time. It was a wonderful event, full of love and support. All right, a little bit about drag. Guess what? It's been around forever. All right, Shakespeare had drag. There's examples of drag in England and China in the 1500s. The first known drag balls in the United States were in the 1920s. Guess what? World War II. There was drag. All right? So, World War II, a regular kind of entertainment were soldiers who dressed up as women and put on shows for each other. Drag shows have become even more popular with the movie Paris is Burning and shows like RuPaul's Drag Race. There's movies, The Birdcage. There's musicals like Hairspray. This is nothing new. This is not out of the ordinary. Drag is here, and it's always been here. All right? Also, another thing that you should know, drag performers are not always part of the LGBTQ plus community. A lot of cis men and women do drag. The reason they do is because it's very fun entertainment and it challenges people's conceptions. So please learn more about it. Show we are a community that is open and supportive of all people. Thank you.
Michelle Kaplan.
Sorry, hang on. 1 second, sorry. I just wanted to let you know, I'm gonna give this to you, but there is a University of Wisconsin Rural Health Research Center. There's a whole case studies from June 2022 on small town pride celebrations supporting social connectedness and well-being for LGBTQ plus rural residents. So I'll share it with you and you can maybe share it. There are studies about this from the University of Minnesota about how important this is to make all people in rural communities feel safe.
Hello, I'm Michelle Kaplan. I live at 2511 Lorraine Street in Marshfield. And I'm here to talk about the Pride event, like a lot of people. I just wanted to mention that in rural Wisconsin, just rural areas, mental illness is a really, really big problem. And there's not enough mental health professionals and enough support for people that are experiencing mental illness. And it's just, to me, it's very, very apparent that a lot of our youth and some adults being able to express who they are and express how they feel. It's a way that they can stay away from mental illness, not actually be mentally ill. I know in the past they considered being homosexual or things like that as a mental illness, but now the mental health community realizes that this is not mental illness. And in my experience with many of the youth in our area, that they have expressed to me, because they've sort of considered me sort of like a mentor, many of them actually have a lot of hard problems that they deal with because of not being able to be who they are, express who they are. And many of them were at the event and they really, really enjoyed it, and they were really happy to be able to have the event. So, just echoing the other people that were in support, I'm very thankful that we were allowed to have the event, to be supportive. And just for the record, I did see that $1 bill that was talked about, and I saw what happened. I don't know if it matters, but in my witness, he stuffed him down his shirt, and then they just fell out. So that's what happened. All right, so that's it.
Kellen Jaspin.
Good evening. My name is Kellen Jepson. I live at 800 West Blodgett Street in Marshfield. My pronouns are she, her. I am a proud queer woman. I want to start by saying thank you to our mayor for joining us at Pride on June 18th and speaking for honoring Pride Month in our city and for sharing with us that you are a mayor for the people, all of the people. Thank you to our city administrators, our law enforcement officers, and to the Common Council for the work you have done leading up to Pride, during the event, following Pride, and today. I want to thank everyone that played a part in making Marshfield Pride a day of love, inclusivity, and celebration for the LGBTQIA+ people everywhere. Our event was a really beautiful day. It was more successful than we could have ever dreamed as event organizers. It is not lost on us how much work it took to make it that success. We appreciate all of the efforts put forth by so many good, kind, and loving humans to embrace a community of people that really needed to be seen, heard, and loved for exactly who they are. I was born and grew up in Marshfield. I moved back to Marshfield in 2014, and I knew that I wanted to grow and build support for LGBTQ folks in my hometown. I've always been inspired by my brother Kit. He grew up here as well, and he was not able to find safe spaces to be pansexual, to be non-binary, to be gay, to be trans, to be himself. I think I knew then that I hoped to one day see a Pride in Marshfield and that I would hope to be a big part of that. I am a Christian. I love and serve an awesome God. I met my incredible girlfriend doing just that. We were both volunteering at prom for individuals with special needs. I've been so lucky to build a life with her and raise our kids in Marshfield. I did not initially grow up identifying as queer in this community. I grew up with a lot of privilege. I did not feel the hate, pain, or discrimination that far too many people in the LGBTQ+ community face growing up. As a queer adult, I got to walk away from a church that I was very involved in because I saw some of the hate in them that we witnessed from these protesters at Marshfield Pride. As a queer adult, my privilege is evident in not knowing the sting of that hate for the first 35 years of my life. Individuals in the LGBT+ community have felt this pain in immeasurable amounts because of systems and institutions. Thank you to the City of Marshfield for showing us that you are better than this and that you will rise above the hate with us. Thank you for not being one of these institutions. We need your outward support to drive this hate and discrimination out of Marshfield. Following Pride, we received a massive outpouring of support. There were so many beautiful moments that were witnessed and experienced by kids, teens, adults, families. We had drag queens and a drag king that grew up in this area that finally got to share their art and, more importantly, their true and authentic selves with the community that they needed when they were here. But I have to share with you the hard too. Not because a group of hateful people came to our event or came here tonight to voice unfounded negativity, but because it feels hard to feel like a burden. It feels like we have taken up so much time and so many resources that we never intended to take, just because we wanted to have a celebration of who we are. I love to give my all to other people. I want to show up. I want to make sure you feel loved and supported and that you have everything that you need. I do almost everything I do shamelessly all of the time, probably because of that privilege I talked about. But I feel shame in this. And the only reason that I share that with you is because this is the feeling that I would guess a lot of LGBTQ plus folks feel in their lifetimes, just for showing that they are proud of who they are. Please do not allow Marshfield Pride to be clouded by any of the untruths or hate that brought us here today. We really hope that the city of Marshfield, this common council, and our beautiful community will put all of their energy into supporting, validating, and including all of its citizens. We are a community of love and kindness if we choose to be. Love should always win over hate. Thank you so much.
Ava Schrader.
Hello, I'm Ava Schroeder. I live on 800 West Blodgett Street. I'm 12 years old. Although I'm still a child, I know more than most people. At a young age, I learned between right and wrong. Although being wrong in many disagreements between my parents and I know that this is not right. I know that exploiting children's love and community is not right. I know that humans at the 2020 Pride event that came there to be loved and accepted and cherished by support instead received hatred from the people in wrong. I believe that the horrible people that shut down and screamed at children are incorrect on every level. These are the people that stand in front of our council complaining about nonsense. They're abusing human rights and using twisted and awful words to get into people's minds. But I'm not here to talk about the bad. I'm here to tell you about the praise received from the event. As I, being a social human, I know a lot of people that were at the event. All the people I had been able to talk to had described with the most positive words I've heard in a while. I was sadly not able to attend some of the event due to another family event. Even though I did go, it was hard to leave and made me very emotional. That same night, I stayed up late and cried myself to sleep, second-guessing my decision. As a supportive ally, I believe that love is love, and thank you to the council, the mayor, and the police officers who were there that day for believing in love and love too.
Kristen Reigel.
My name is Kristen Reigel. I live at 800 West Blodgett. Many who speak today will have the privilege of not being concerned for their safety. I just want to say that knowing I have to state my address made me verify my homeowner's insurance. How unbelievably sad. Some drag shows are not appropriate for children. I agree with you, sir. Our drag show was appropriate for children. An earlier speaker urged us to take time to learn about drag. So I'm gonna just tell you about a couple of our performers really quick. There was a straight white woman lip syncing to Dolly Parton. That's our drag show. One of our queens is attending a PhD program at UW-Madison, another performer about to be deployed for the third time as he serves in our nation's army. That was our drag show. Miss Mayor, Honorable Council, just over 1 week ago, hundreds of people came together to find love and support for one another at a joyful gathering in the heart of Marshfield. Most everyone there was peaceful and understanding of the diversity in our community and nation. Some, unfortunately, were not. As I arrived at the park to start decorating for our event, so did volunteers to scrub the hateful sidewalk chalk off of the surrounding areas. Protesters started their day wanting to tell people they were an abomination. They threatened people's jobs, and cops were called before 9 a.m. because of their aggressive behavior. Their attempts to disrupt continued throughout the day. Kids that deserve to be told that they're loved exactly as they are, instead were told they were evil. They were told they were not welcome in our community. I softly asked an older protester to not yell at the children. They're children, they're just kids, please don't yell at them. And please forgive the vulgarity. He replied, angered, that's the problem. That woman's got a dick and she wants to put it in all of them. I walked away. It was clear this wasn't ministry. This wasn't about God. They weren't there to share their God with anyone. Their mission was hate. Their choosing to disregard and disrespect the lawful choices of others were witnessed by adults and children throughout the day. We are already aware that those who despise us will continue to cast their shadows upon us no matter how acceptable our actions, our purpose, or our character are. Their view is tainted with bias and disgust and even hate of something they refuse to understand. Tonight's accusations have a purpose of creating shock and perhaps influencing others to hate as well. A reasonable person having witnessed such offenses they speak of would not have waited until after the event. Any reasonable adult would have and should report such an act immediately, and certainly not by an email. There were police officers present and accessible at the event throughout the entire day. One's religious beliefs do not grant them the right to impose their beliefs on others or dictate the way we live our lives based on their religion. This is a basic foundation of our country and our government. They can hide behind the lies and falsehoods in the name of religion, but it is only an attempt to humiliate, discredit, and create allies in their cause of hate. Their goal is to entice fear to impact future events. Please do not let them achieve this goal. I deeply thank the individuals who allowed a space for hundreds of people to show love for the LGBTQ community on June 18th in Marshfield, and I'm sincerely apologetic for any adversity you faced in doing that. I hope this serves as a reminder for the battles we face just for being. As I approach my 3-minute mark, I'm no longer here to just defend a meaningful event meant to spread love to others and within ourselves, and to explicitly refute the lies and hate of a few protesters disconnected from reality. Marshfield residents deserve more involvement. We deserve more inclusivity. We deserve more concern for the queer, trans, non-binary people and youth of this city. I'm here to expect tolerance and diversity in this city, and I expect LGBTQ plus people to be reminded that this is our home too, and we do belong. Thank you.
Maddie Lamina. Thank you.
Hello, representatives of Marshfield City Council, and hello, attendees tonight. My name is Maddie Lamia. I live at 1518 North Peach Avenue, and my pronouns are she, her. I come here today as a fairly new resident of Marshfield, having just moved here a month ago, and as an ally to the LGBTQIA community. Recently, there have been many concerns about the Marshfield Pride event that took place on June 18th. I've come here to speak today instead about the positives of the Marshfield Pride event. Initially, I was thrilled to see that this community offered this event. At this event, there was an abundance of love, positivity, and a powerful sense of community. I saw fathers who were dancing with drag queens in support of their children. I saw drag queens and kings perform on a stage with a roaring crowd, and I saw teenagers having fun and finally feeling a sense of belonging and acceptance with their friends. All of this happened here in Marshfield, Wisconsin. And despite the few interruptions we had that day, the Marshfield PD, the drag queens, the community, and the organizers and volunteers of Pride handled everything with such a sense of grace and dignity. It was an event I hadn't dreamed of attending here in Marshfield, and even my sister and mother came up an hour and a half away to attend, and they had a fabulous experience. And I think my mother ended up hugging half of the crowd. Many people think that Pride is an immoral event, but is so much more than rainbows or parades. It is about protecting and validating our LGBTQIA youth and community, creating safe spaces, producing visibility, enforcing intersectional ways of thinking, and continuing to advocate for equal rights. The Pride event was purely rooted in love and positive energy. I could not be more proud to be a resident of Marshfield. And I urge you as city representatives to rise above the negativity and instead recognize that visibility matters here in our town. And all of the attendees of this event would concede with this statement. Thank you for your time tonight.
Roman Polowinski.
Good evening. I'm not here for the topic that's on hand, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, okay? Good evening, members of Marshfield City Council. My name is Roman Howinski. I reside here in Marshfield at 1410 North Adams, and I come to you with excitement. And with that excitement is a proposal, and I will get to that very shortly. I've been a resident of Marshfield for quite some time, and I have many hobbies. My favorite of those, UTVing. A little bit about myself is I work at Rail Transport as an additional training officer, and my job duty includes safety. That is the cornerstone value that Rail instills in everybody that works there. I help drivers of commercial vehicles understand the law and operate their CMV safely. And I work with those drivers that had accidents to help them make sure that does not repeat itself. Along with the word safe, when it comes to UTVing, I follow the law and I operate my machine safely. Not only by myself, but many residents and non-residents of the area are law-abiding and safe. Marshfield is missing out on a very popular and fast-growing sport. Again, along with myself, many others would like to see a restricted route or routes through the city of Marshfield. For example, a north to south, east to west route. The details could be worked out as we progress, and I'm sure there'd be many concerns from the residents and city council, and we will address those as we progress. There's always growing pains, there's conflict, but there's always a solution. Many communities, counties in the state of Wisconsin have allowed UTVs on their roads, and that the local economy has benefited from it. The state of Wisconsin, as I'm sure you are aware, has programs, grants, funding for such things like signage, route planning, law enforcement. We can explore all this. I find myself, along with others, leaving Marshfield and Wood County to pursue this recreation, and I ask myself why. Marshfield has a lot to offer this sport and can lead the way for other communities to follow. An opportunity is here for us to grab, and what I ask of the city members is to put this on an upcoming agenda or agendas, and let's explore this. Let's make something safe, fair, and great for the community. Thank you.
Ray Sternweiss.
I'm Ray Sternweiss. I live in 108 East Pine Street in Spencer. I'm here because the PD, to me, has been harassing other people. I've been hearing from other people being harassing like us young people. Just don't care. They don't care about us. They want to just get on with their next thing, what they have to do. I have an officer that I'm not going to mention told me there is some shady cops here in Marshfield. And that is not good. With a person that I know, her mom wanted me to be up in the birth center. Now you're letting a sex offender go in the birth center to, I would have a child of my own. And it's not right for the cops to go, oh, it's okay. Not right. It's unsafe for a registered sex offender to go into a hospital like that in a birthing center, and the cops don't care. I just got pulled over yesterday. And it's the same officer I'm dealing with a constant on and on. It's kind of getting ridiculous with the same officer keeps pulling me over for stupid things. And the vehicle that I have, he's pulling me over for blue lights. This truck that I have, I got it from a friend. He lives in Marshfield here. Over 2 years, he had those lights in. No cop, nothing been done, being pulled over or anything. But I did call the chief of police today, and he kind of blew it off. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. But when you guys, the cops don't understand that that's been on that truck for the past 2 years and he never got pulled over. But when it comes to be me and other people, they don't care. Something just needs to be done with, I agree with the lady here says the cops don't do nothing, with the drag queen stuff. It's cops in town here. I lived in Marshfield here, and it was good, and I got along with the police. But it's past 2 years, it went downhill. Needs to be looked at, needs to be brought to your guys' attention because it's harassment on all parts. And I even called the supervisor. That same officer, I asked for a supervisor. You know what he told me? Oh, there's not one on. But he told me I can go to the PD. And then right after I got off to the stop, I went to the PD, talked to the supervisor. The cop lied to me. That's not right. Something needs to be done and looked into the Marshfield PD because these guys don't care about anyone. There is some good cops out there, but it needs to be dealt with and needs to be looked at and everything needs to be looked at with them. Because like I says, you're the main person kind of just blew me off. I called him today and he says, oh, it's not my problem. I'm sorry, it is his problem. And if this doesn't get resolved, I'm going to go higher up because this is harassment onto everyone. That's all I need to say.
Thank you. Caitlin Schultz.
I'm gonna set my timer real quick. Hi, my name is Caitlin Schultz. I live in Marshfield, Wisconsin at 706 South Peach. I'm gonna address people on the camera. Hello. I have lived in Marshfield my entire life, been heavily involved in my community. I've been on the Main Street Marshfield board. I have volunteered at several events, actually in the Wenzel Plaza, let alone other locations. I also want to address how exciting it is to see such a huge turnout for multiple issues. I love seeing my community involved. Yes, even the people that I disagree with. I also would like to point out that we kind of all need to be quiet when people are speaking. I noticed with every speaker, we're not in grade school, we can handle this. So I want to give a little bit of backstory. Like I said, I've been here my whole life. I was born and raised Catholic. I chose not to continue with the Catholic Church at confirmation time because I was told that the Vatican does not approve of anyone of the homosexual lifestyle and those arranged. My parents respected my decision. My parents, including my incredibly conservative father, who continually drops slurs on the regular, both against that group and other colors. I think that there is nothing wrong with having an opinion There is nothing wrong with peacefully and respectfully protesting an event. I arrived at the Pride event around 4 p.m. I left a little after 6 p.m. In that short amount of time, I saw the level of disrespect grow exponentially, enough that extra officers showed up. This person right here was violently projectile vomiting. He was doing as much as he could to get attention. I actually snapped once and one of them said, "You need to wait your turn." It's not okay to disrupt an event. If you are at an event and you think this is not right, I don't want kids seeing this, this event was publicized for ages. You had plenty of time to talk with somebody. Even if you didn't make that time, you had time to make up some pamphlets of your own, to have peaceful, civil conversations. I don't believe in the Jehovah's Witness religion, but I'm not rude to them when they show up at my door. I ask them to please remove my address and leave. There is nothing wrong with being civil. Did I wish that they had not shown up at all? Absolutely. Did it break my heart to see them also screaming at children? Yes, it fully did. That shouldn't be happening. Like I said, I was born and raised Catholic. I'm very spiritual to this day. I don't push my religion on other people. What I believe is what I believe. It's not your choice. And I believe that Jesus, the entire Bible, the whole point of it is to treat others the way you'd want to be treated. The Wenzel family donating this plaza, that was a gift to our community, a generous, wonderful gift. Much like the Rail family donating to our library, it was a wonderful gift. You do not get to give gifts with strings. Them being upset about what was held in the plaza, that's on them. That is a personal issue they need to work through. You gave a gift. The community used it as they saw fit. If they wanted a private domain, they should have retained a private domain. I also feel that this event was exciting and fun, and I just want to echo one sentiment that there is a very big difference between adult drag shows and family-friendly drag shows. This was a family-friendly one. I had a great time. I'm a member of this community. I've been here my whole life. I love it. I am hopelessly devoted to Marshfield. I love everyone who lives here, even if I don't like them. I'm the B member. I am a bisexual person, and it's nobody's business that I am, but I am, and I feel it's important to share that because I've had the privilege of being straight passing, as they call it. I was not the one that the slurs were screamed at, but my friends were. I graduated in 07. These things are still said. They are still shown in the schools. They are still shown in our community. I have had several community members in my place of employment. I work in a retail setting, felt it was appropriate to slander people for their romantic preferences. That's not okay. I would like to see a realistic rule in place. Rule, exception, whatever you want to call it. I would like to make sure that when protesters show up to events of all kinds, they are peaceful and they are respectful. I have 50 seconds left. I just want to tie it up with, I watched these people get closer and closer and closer and closer to the performers where they literally could have reached their arms out and touched them while screaming loud enough that you could barely hear the PA system. I just would like respect to everybody. So I yield my time. Thank you.
Jenny Jersley.
Set my timer too. Hi, Council. Hi, Mayor. My name is Jenny Jersley. I live at 2308 East Fillmore Street. So I'm sensing a theme tonight, and it has to do with positivity, acceptance, and respect. And I came here originally, my plan originally was to come here to talk in support of the Pride event. I attended. I'm not affiliated with the group that planned the event. I'm just a citizen of Marshfield, and I was very happy to see a group putting some work into creating some acceptance and diversity in our community, which I think is really needed. And it helps us as a community to grow. It helps us to attract people to live here. It helps us to keep people living here, and it helps us to grow our economy. The future of the world and the future of our workforce is diverse, so acceptance is key. However, I woke up yesterday morning to a text message from my neighbor. My neighbor is an immigrant, and he's also a minority, and he asked if we had received Nazi white supremacist propaganda in our driveway. And I was shocked. So the first thing I did was get up and run outside and look in the driveway, and we did. We received a packet of anti-Semitic flyers, and I brought them with me, and I'll give these to you and the council in case you haven't seen them, so you can see them. But I just want to talk about what was in here and what I feel it means for our community. First of all, I felt like this message was completely opposite of what I saw at Pride, which was acceptance and respect and positivity and equality. And this is hateful and vile. The first pamphlet that I pulled out said, "Jews are setting to kill us all," just like they did when they took over the Soviet Union. The next pamphlet says, "Every single aspect of the Great Replacement is Jewish." And it includes a graphic that shows that in 1965, the United States was 90% white, and in 2020, it's now 56% white, and goes on to talk about how Jews are supposedly organizing some sort of takeover and elimination of white Americans. And from there, it goes on to spout a bunch of really nonsense conspiracy theories. So I'll share this with the council. So one of the first things I did was check to see if any of my other neighbors got this. And it turns out our whole neighborhood received them. And Ms. Spiros, I'm not sure if you did, but a lot of District 8 did. I did call the police. I spoke with Officer Ament. She took my complaint. She was very helpful. She said there were about 20 complaints in our neighborhood, people who called this in. The police are investigating, and if anyone has video, like from a Ring camera or a security camera showing people who dropped off these pamphlets, like even a make and model of a car would be really helpful. But I'd like to talk to the council about how we handle this as a community. I know that the council and the mayor were supportive of Pride, and because of the message that it sends, like I said. And I think it would be very helpful if, as a community, the council and mayor could come out and condemn these types of actions in our community right away, perhaps issue a statement before hate like this starts to spread and take hold. We want to see our community continue to be prosperous. We want to see our community continue to grow. And I think in order to do that, we have to send a clear message that these types of attitudes aren't tolerated here, especially when they can lead to violence. And I feel that these materials were given out to intimidate people. I don't know how many of you have done 23andMe or Ancestry.com. So I'm just going to wrap it up with this. I did it. I was born and raised in Marshfield. I was always told we were German Catholics, right? Probably like a lot of you here. I did 23andMe, and it turns out I have Jewish ancestry. I had no idea, nor did anyone in my family. And suddenly things like this that maybe we had the privilege to ignore before start to seem a little more real and closer to home. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone who came out tonight in support of both Pride and this, because I know I have many members of my PEO Chapter CY sisterhood here. Thank you. And encourage the council to take a stand on this as well. Thank you.
Kit Jepson.
Hello, my name is Kit. My address is 2348 North 70th Street, Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. Yeah, I drove all the way from Milwaukee today to be here. I was here at the Pride event last week. I grew up in Marshfield, Wisconsin. I am a proud trans man. I'm a proud queer person. I'm married. And I don't have like the best words to describe just what Pride meant to me personally. I didn't think that I would ever see something like that in Marshfield, Wisconsin. I wasn't out. Nobody in my school was out in high school. It was not safe to be. I tried to come out to one of my friends in high school, and she decided to tell everybody in our school, and then they all made fun of me and called me a lesbian, which isn't even what I am. But I didn't even know what trans people were. I didn't know what gay people were. I didn't have this representation, which is really important. Like, you can't be what you can't see. Like if you don't have good and positive representation, then you can't be that. But I didn't know that, little high school me would see me now and know that I'm like this strong, proud trans man that I am. And like all of these people have said, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of religion, we have the right to gather peacefully, peacefully being the operative word. But we all have these freedoms, but queer people also have freedoms. Queer people deserve all of these rights and freedoms. Drag is not about grooming children. Drag is an act. It's an art form. It's performers showing that gender is a construct. It doesn't really, you don't have to wear pants because you're a man. You don't have to wear dresses because you're a woman. You can wear whatever clothes you want. And the fact that I'm free and I'm willing to accept the person that I am and I love myself and I'm proud of myself, like, it really, I think that the issue with the protesters is an issue of jealousy and seeing that we all are showing love and giving unconditional love to each other in a way that maybe none of you have ever experienced. And I really hope that you do someday. But like one of the speakers said, LGBTQ kids are 4 times more likely to kill themselves. So hate speech, the things that you say, the things that you scream in children's faces this close away, telling them that they're going to hell. All of these things add to people having severe mental health complications and identity issues. Like you said, you have freedom of religion. I have freedom of religion. I do not need to practice your religion just because it's your religion. And I deserve to exist in this earth. My existence isn't a question. You can have your beliefs, but I'm a trans person. I'm a queer person. And listing my name and address might put me at a safety risk that it might not put you at. You don't understand the hate that we have to feel all the time as queer people. And all of these kids, these beautiful kids that I saw there at my own hometown, I looked at them and I see all these kids that get to be adults. They get to grow up. They get to grow up with a community around them that loves them and supports them and doesn't spread messages of hate and doesn't scream in children's faces. So the drag performers were in no way an issue. I was a drag performer. I actually did my first drag performance ever. It was great, but we're not about indoctrinating children. We're about showing love and positivity. And I really hope that you all can learn to show love. And if you're going to show up to an event, to be kind, because people of the LGBT community, queer people, trans people deserve to live here. We live here. I did hear one protester scream during the performances saying that I don't want you in my community. We're here. We're queer. We're not going anywhere. Drag is here. Probably going to have some drag reading at the library. Who knows? But we're not going anywhere. So I think you all need to adjust to the fact that your worldview is skewed and you can open it up. You can make room for other people. But I just want to thank the mayor, the city council, everyone, and my sister for throwing this Pride event, because making this queer community safe and making this space for queer kids and queer people to be out and be themselves is so important, especially in a place like Marshfield, Wisconsin, especially in this town. But thank you very much.
Alora Lumay.
Hi, my name is Laura Lemieux. I gave you the wrong address, so I'm going to give you the right one. 1908 North Hume Avenue. I'm a recent move to Marshfield. I moved to Marshfield to use my degree. I have a degree in biology, genetic biology, and I also have a degree in theater. Not relevant, but get to the point. I went to Pride because my whole life, I'm asexual. If you don't know what that is, please Google it. I am on the spectrum, and it really does hurt when people say horrible things about other people around you. I'm from another small town, up north, way up north. Think about a freckle on Wisconsin. And I think I feel more love in Marshfield, Wisconsin, which is also a very small freckle in the state, And I felt more love and respect at this Pride event. And I've been to many. I mean, I went to college, I went to parties, I did all that kind of stuff, and I felt more respect from my fellow community, my allies, until I was faced with these protesters that were pretending to vomit at these drag queens. And you're right, I have a degree in theater. Drag is an art, and I wish that I could do it, but I am not the least bit talented like that. And I would rather give my money to these people who are spending thousands of dollars on these costumes than to a religion that is telling me that I can't be what I want to be. I'm not dressed. I didn't think I was going to speak today, but I just really wanted to just admit that I was at drag, and the police were so respectful, and they never ever seemed like they were going to do anything to the protesters until they started to get more and more aggressive and more hateful towards us. And I just want to say that I got one of the worst sunburns ever, but it was one of the best, family-friendly events I've ever been to, and I hope that we're able to have another one, because the number of little kids who were just so excited to be there and dance because they just want to dance. They're kids. It just, like I said, I'm just so glad that I moved to Marshfield to use my degree, my biology degree at the Marshfield Clinic, and to also admit that my theater degree does help feel how drag is such an important part of our history. Thank you.
Taryn Reardon.
Hello. Right, I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I thought I'd put my name on the list just to see what happens. And I got a chance to speak, so that's pretty cool. Also, don't look at that camera, that's a really weird angle. So just look over here. My name is Taryn Reardon. I live at 1902 North Hume Ave in Marshfield. I won't take up much of your time, but want you to know I'm here as a straight married woman. I also just wrote this sitting down there, so bear with me. I attended Pride and saw people who were supported for being themselves. I took my 3-year-old to the Pride event as well, which I'm really proud about. For those of you here who are straight like me, could you even imagine growing up not being straight? This is hard to say. Because I couldn't. I couldn't imagine growing up not straight, not being accepted, being hated, being discriminated against. There's so many people in this room who that's their reality. And that makes me so sad, and I want to cry. So I'm very privileged to be a straight white woman and to never have to deal with any of that all of you brave people face on a daily basis. I'm so proud of all of you for existing and living every day with all of the hateful people, especially like a lot of the ones that we saw at Pride protesting. So can you just please stop protesting? That's who they are. You're not going to change them. That's how they were born. It's not helping, so please stop protesting. I also hate when religion gets brought into this. You don't get to dictate how people live their lives based on your religion. We don't tell you to go to church or not go to church. We don't stand outside of your church with signs telling you not to go and how hated you are. So just stop. I'm a high school counselor, and I support students, and I support people. My grandpa was a Catholic, and he didn't care if people were gay. They're not hurting anyone. Are they? No, they're not. that I'll continue to support all students and human beings, and I'll continue taking my daughter to Pride. It was an awesome day, awesome event. Thank you to the Marshfield Police Department. Thank you to everyone who let Pride happen. It was an amazing day. I didn't have this plan, but I could seriously go on. I'm trying to decide if I want to. Oh, this is kind of fun. What else do I want to say up here? Anyway, not organized. Sorry, that was kind of everywhere, but just stop being so closed-minded. Open your hearts and your minds. Not everyone has to be like you or believe in what you believe. So just stop the hate and stop the protesting. So it's not going to change anything. It's honestly just making you look stupid. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. We'll take a 5-minute break before the rest of the council meeting. If anyone wishes to leave the room, so we can transition for the rest of the agenda. Thank you. Item D, approval of minutes, June 14th, 2022.
Move approval.
Alderman Wagner approves, and second by Alderman Peschel. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes with an absentee. Thank you. Item E, staff updates.
I'm not aware of any this evening.
Thank you. Item F, my comments for information purposes only. Employee recognition. Anthony Feitry, Fire Department, 5 years. Congratulations, Anthony. Item G, Common Council comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to item H, reports from commissions, boards, and committees. Seeing none, we'll move on to item I, consent agenda, meetings, minutes, and reports. Motion by Alderman Witzel, second by Alderman Varsho. Any comments? Yes, Steve Barg.
Thank you. I just want to make a quick comment. One of the items, it's F5. It refers to a pay grade and filling position for the Administrative Associate 2 Clerk Finance. Since the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee recommended approval, there was an issue came up, a minor one, that we went back to Milena from McGrath, our compensation consultant, just to make very minor housekeeping changes to the job description. And she got back to us right away and said that wouldn't alter the pay grade from what's recommended at 121. It was way too minor. I just wanted to note that so that the final job description has been slightly tweaked in a way that's not of great significance.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes. Item K, receive overview of 2022 borrowing, introduced by Jennifer Solinsky, Finance Director, presented by David Ferris from Ellers.
Good evening. Earlier this evening, I distributed a schedule from the 2022 budget document detailing upcoming projects and major spending that was intended to be financed by long-term debt. This was approved in our CIP plan as well. You'll notice that there are a couple items that are excluded from the borrowing. Taxi and patrol vehicles cannot be financed in the manner that we'll be discussing later, so we'll be back should those actually come to fruition in 2022. We'll be back with a request for borrowing on a short-term basis for those. We'll also need to eliminate from this list the TIF 13 request for debt. We don't yet have an agreement for that, nor do we know the true cost. So should that, once we find out the cost and have a signed agreement, we'll be back with another debt offering for those items. With that, I'll be introducing Dave Ferris, who is our municipal bond advisor, and he's going to walk us through the pre-sale documents as well as the resolutions that you will be asked to vote on this evening.
Thank you, Jennifer. Request to approve initial resolution number 2022-20, authorizing $465,000 general obligation bonds for community development projects in tax incremental districts. David?
Actually, I think I'm doing an overall introduction with the pre-sale report that should be in your packet.
Okay, that's
do you want me to share that on screen?
That might be helpful, and we're looking at the agenda, and we do see your overview. So if you can do that, that'd be great, Dave.
Okay. All right, so can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is our pre-sale report. What's that?
Thank you.
Okay. This is our pre-sale report. Those of you that have been on the council before have seen this and have heard my song and dance before, but this is the report that we use really to document the planning that's gone in up front here to get to the point where we are, where we're borrowing. You know, you've gone through your CIP, you've kind of tightened up your project, and this is actually bringing it together and getting it ready so that you can potentially sell your bonds in the open market. So on the first page, the summary of what this debt issue is about, we're preliminarily taking $4,295,000 of general obligation corporate purpose bonds to the market to sell. The purpose of those bonds would be to fund your capital improvements, which include street improvements, fire equipment, fire department facility improvements, some UW system college campus projects. And those projects are actually all paid for by the regular levy. And then there's a land purchase that was in the project plan for TID 12 that got approved last year. There's a land purchase that will be paid from tax increment revenues that will be generated from improvements that will happen in the future at TID 12. Going down a little farther, middle of the page, we have the information about your debt limit. I actually have a chart in the back that will show this a little bit better. After this borrowing, actually on the date that we close this issue, you'll be at basically 50% of your debt capacity. As far as the call date on this, we have the call date out at 10 years. Typically, we try to look to see how much of the debt is repaid, and about the halfway point is where the underwriter likes to see that call date, and this actually falls right in that 10-year area where you can call this borrowing if there's lower interest rates, or if you have like excess funds on hand that you want to apply that we could downsize the issue before we refund it. That date on March 1st, 2032, or any day after that, you can call anything from basically 33 through 42. Going on, we are going to have a discussion with Moody's. Looks like it might be July 28th, I believe, that we're going to have staff have a conference call with Moody's and talk about the city's financial status, what you have going on developmentally wise, and just how the city is growing and doing good things that will hopefully impress Moody's, and maybe we can get the negative outlook off of the city's rating and start heading upwards, since they took us down to an A1 a few years ago. We're going to sell this based on a competitive basis. We're going to let local, regional, and national underwriters submit bids for your bonds, and hopefully we'll get quite a bit of interest, which will lead to lower interest rates. Next thing I want to talk about is there's just a little piece of your issue that is supposed to be paid for with tax incremental revenues from TID 12. If TID 12 did not have those revenues, which hopefully we'll have development out there and that'll pay for those. If that TIP never had any development, the city would have to levy a property tax for that amount of that payment. Your service providers is your bond counsel, Quarles and Brady. They also do what's called disclosure counsel, which is a very thorough review of your official statement, which is the document that underwriters review and decide whether they're going to bid on your bonds and what kind of a bid they're going to submit. Your paying agent is Bond Trust Services, which is really almost an insurance service that keeps you from missing debt payments, keeps you notified of special instances that you have to make sure that you report things to regulatory bodies. It's just a good way to make sure that we don't fall into a problem and have blemishes on our record, which could lead to people thinking you're too risky. Your rating agency is Moody's Investor Service, and we'll talk to them at the end of next month. The calendar of events is I'm here to talk to you today. We're going to talk to Moody's, I believe, the 28th of July. Quarles and Brady will schedule a call to go over the official statement after they do our thorough review of it. We'll then distribute that official statement to the underwriters, who will come up with their bids, and on August 9th, they will submit their bids, and we will bring the results of that sale to you on August 9th to have you approve the lowest bidder. Once that's accomplished, we will have the closing, which is the day that the money actually gets transferred into the city's account, and that's when you're able to start paying for your project. I have a couple of schedules in here just to go over quickly. Jennifer kind of talked about the capital schedule. This is actually what is included in the bonds. You'll notice I have the bond purposes here. And you also notice that there are numerous resolutions that are listed in your agenda. The reason that is because bonds make you have separate resolutions stating the amount and the not to exceed amounts for the borrowing. And so that's, you can see here, we have numerous purposes. And so we have numerous resolutions that you're required to pass based on the statute that governs bonds. So we have 4,173,900 of projects. We have kind of taken into consideration that some of them don't have a useful life that could go 20 years, like bonds can be paid. So we do have a repayment schedule that kind of shortens up some of those repayments to better match the useful lives of some of the assets. You'll see that in the issue allocation that I'll show you a little bit. So this 4,173,900 flows onto our sizing sheet. And so this is more broken down by your funds that borrow the money. There's your 4,173,000. There's issuance costs that are involved. A lot of them are based on the size of the issue. Municipal advisor, bond and disclosure counsel, and underwriter fees really follow the amount of the borrowing. And there's a couple other fees where the rating is based on the amount of the borrowing. Actually, I think this 19,000 will come down because we pulled the TID 13 project, that this will actually be 14,500, I think. So we'll already have a smaller size on sales date. We'll be able to downsize the bond just because of that. There's a little bit of interest earnings for a period of time on the project costs that'll be in your bank accounts for a little bit. And then because we have to have bond sizes in increments of 5,000, there's just a little rounding to get to that next 5,000. Then that translates into how we, and this is probably small, hopefully you have a way to read this without looking at the screen, but this is really the schedule where we try to solve for your tax rate. And we showed you this when we were here doing your capital improvement plan kickoff meeting. The section over to the left is your base plan that we discussed at that meeting, which is where you were at 12/31 of 21. And in there, your tax rate was at 263 equalized value in 2021, and followed down as I discussed. You want that to be falling because you want to make room for future projects. We then structured in the year debt payments, and you'll see that broken out by the purposes on the next listing. We've got a interest rate that basically is a rate that's based on a sale that occurred in June. Because rates had been climbing at about 10 points per week, we put a little bit of interest rate risk on this of 60 basis points. Hopefully the market will, it's kind of been a little bit flat, but it kind of bounces a little bit here and there. So I'm hoping maybe we don't end up having that extra amount on it at the end, and these rates are a little bit high. But I'd hate to have you see something that looks the other way, where we didn't have enough and we have to tell you that we had a pre-sale planning document that wasn't any good. So we're trying to guess the market, and hopefully we're a little bit high when we come back. So this repayment schedule has revenues that are paid for, or there's project or debt payments that are paid for by another fund, which is TID 12, and that brings you down to the amount of levy dollar-wise that you'll need to pay on these bonds on an annual basis. That gets added to the existing amount to get your annual debt service levy after these bonds are sold, and that gives you a tax rate over here. I have this still boxed off from when I did the presentation, but this 256 is where we're coming in at with this planning run. I'm hoping, like I said, that the interest rates don't climb as fast as they were at the beginning of the year, and that we'll be able to get that more in line with that 253 that we have for the 2022 that happened as a result of last year's borrowing. So the other thing I always like to have on here is what happens if we have a little better growth. And, you know, we were using 2% growth when we did the tax rate that's in the box area. If you were to have a 3% growth, that obviously knocks that tax rate down quicker and spreads that taxes across a bigger value tax base. So, you know, we're a little bit conservative with our growth, and I think, you know, we'll be able to have a tax rate that's probably well in line with where we've been. The next schedule are just for you can see how we've broken out the different purposes. We have things that, you know, obviously they're smaller that don't need to go out as far. We have, you know, some some smaller building things that didn't need to be, you couldn't really get them out the 20 years. We've got some street improvements that are more maintenance oriented, so we split those out and amortize those over a shorter period of time. And then we took some of the bigger things that have longer lives and stretched those out over the full life of the bond. And you'll see that for the Daniels subdivision improvements as well as the TID 12 project. And the last chart I have is the debt capacity graph. As we talked about, your policy is at 65%. When I showed you this graph with all 5 years before, we were still maintaining that well underneath that 65, more around the 50%. And so we'll structure your 5-year plan to continue to stay under that debt policy. But with the one year, with a 22 issue only, you're at about 51%. And that was at the beginning of the year. After this issue and at the end of the year, you'll be at 49. So even though we're issuing debt this year, we are actually reducing our debt capacity at the end of 22. And I just have a graph in here that kind of shows you the crazy interest rate graph. We've had, mostly increases, but once in a while it decides to do a crazy drop and then starts to build back up again. So, you can see why we're adding a little bit of risk onto your rates just for the planning run. And hopefully when the bids actually come in, we'll be, right back in this area, a little bit lower, hopefully. So that's my presentation. And really, when you go to consider the resolutions, really that is, like I said, those are broken out by a not to exceed, and they're based on this grouping of project costs with the issuance costs on top of them to get to those amounts that are split out individually in your agenda.
Thank you, David. Now we'll go on to item L. Request to approve initial resolution number 2022-20, authorizing $465,000 general obligation bonds for community development projects in tax increment districts. Motion by Fire, second by Alderman Peschel, and Alderman Wagner would like to speak.
Yes, thank you. I just briefly mentioned this to Jennifer before the meeting started, which seems like it was that yesterday. But anyway, the one issue I had on it had to do with the Daniels subdivision. And I remember we talked about our gift from the county of a bill for $2,900 extra for the land. What do they call it?
It was to take it, change the zoning.
Right. But the thing is, we've sold some lots. And what I'm curious about is, and maybe the council needs to decide, or you can give us some direction on it, is should we take the proceeds that we receive from the lots right up until the day of sale of these things and apply it against the amount that we're actually borrowing? Or should we wait, just borrow the whole amount? I think it's what,
513
33 or something.
13 513
515. So should we borrow that whole amount, or should we reduce that whole amount by the amount of proceeds we've received so far?
The amount of proceeds received so far were intended to pay back the Economic Development Fund, which initially loaned the Capital Project Fund monies in order to do the construction. So in the first $900,000 of the proceeds from the sales of the lot are going to replenish the Economic Development Fund.
And do you know how much we received so far?
Roughly half of that, give or take.
450 or so?
Give or take, yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing to replenish this 533 or whatever it is?
No.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote to approve resolution number 2022-20. All ayes. Thank you. Item M, request to approve initial resolution number 2022-21, authorizing $10,000 general obligation bonds for equipment for the fire department. Motion by Alderman Peschel, second by Alderman Tompkins. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Again, all ayes. Thank you. Item N, request to approve initial resolution number 2022-22 authorizing 50,000 general obligation bonds for fire station projects. Oop, sorry, I just said that. I apologize. Item O, request to approve initial resolution number 2022
No, you were right.
I was right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, there were two for the fire.
You were right.
Okay.
You were right.
Sorry.
You read
Okay,
it.
thank you.
We're back to him.
Okay. Alderman Tompkins motioned and second by Peschel. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes. Item O, request to approve initial resolution number 2022-23 authorizing 3,665,000 general obligation bonds for street improvement projects. Motion by Alderman Spiro, second by Alderman Varsho. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes. Item P, request to approve initial resolution number 2022-24 authorizing 105,000 general obligation bonds for UW System College campus. Motion by Alderman Fire, second by Alderman Spiros. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes. Item Q, request to approve resolution number 2022-25, directing publication of notice to electors relating to bond issues. Motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman O'Reilly. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes. Item R, request to approve resolution number 2022-26, providing for the sale of 4,295,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2022A. Motion by Alderman Peschel, second by Alderman Wagner. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes. Item S, request to approve West 2nd Street District Redevelopment Plan, presented by Stephen Wiley, City Planner. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks
Good
a lot.
night.
Take care, Dave.
Thank you. So I'll keep this brief because you'll recall that this was presented 2 weeks ago. We wanted to give you an exposure to the plan itself. I know many of you were familiar from previous public meetings that we've held on this, but tonight we want to bring it forward for formal approval. The oversight committee that we formed has worked over the better part of a year, so since late last year, on this plan with Vanderwall and Associates and with city staff. And so we held a number of meetings with them, helped sculpt this plan. And then our first major public meeting was the April 27th joint workshop with the Plan Commission and the Economic Development Board. So many of you were at that. Then on May 26th, we had the CDA public hearing, which is required by state statute. And we heard a number of public comments at that. The CDA then reviewed the plan and approved the West 2nd Street redevelopment plan and the resolution to create redevelopment district number 1, which is this area that is encompassed by this plan here, at last week's CDA meeting, so at the June 23rd CDA meeting. And the next step in the approval process is to bring it forward to all of you for review and approval. If you approve it tonight, then it will go back to the CDA for final ratification at the July CDA meeting.
Thank you, Stephen. Motion by Alderman Fisher, second by Alderman Wagner. And Alderman Tompkins?
Stephen, I'm just wondering if you could speak to, we had a speaker come and he said that we were not presented with feasibility, and I think he said conformity. Could you address that?
Trying to think, was that, oh, Mr. Penker's comment. I don't know if, I'm not, I guess I heard Mr. Penker speak on it. I don't know if it'd be better if he explains, because I didn't quite catch the whole comment when I was back there. I know we do have some implementation details that we have to work out in the plan, and they do provide some tools. But I guess if he can speak to it, then maybe I can answer, if that's okay.
Mr. Panker?
At the public hearing held by the CDA in late May, There were two questions noted in the public notice, and one was to receive comment on whether or not the proposed project met the goals of the city, which would be as defined within the downtown plan and the comprehensive plan. And the second question was the feasibility of the project. Now, if you go back to that meeting and you check the record, there was only one person who addressed whether the proposal met the requirements underneath the two plans. That was me. And as far as feasibility, I noted a general concept of feasibility, that the project could be completed if you had dynamic, forward-thinking civic leaders take charge. I could go back and get the direct quote if you'd like. But in terms of feasibility, no one else addressed that point. I addressed it, say, generically, but we have not had any of the other people come to this chamber. They may have said something at a CDA meeting, but they haven't presented to you their concept of how it fits the requirements of the two documents or their view of feasibility. Now, we had some speakers at the meeting on May 26th that questioned the feasibility. I guess they were somewhat parochial in terms of their questioning, but no one has really addressed that point other than I. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Panker.
So to speak to that, as staff, we do try to look at these plans to make sure that they are consistent with, in particular, the comprehensive plan, but other city, more area-specific plans. In sending it to the Plan Commission, we wanted to give them an opportunity too, because if you'll recall, part of the charge of the Plan Commission is to make sure that any of the plans or ordinances that run through the Planning and Economic Development Department, so through Development Services, that those are consistent with our plans as well. I do agree with Mr. Panker that perhaps our discussion was a little bit light on how this ties in and how it aligns with our existing plans. But in looking at it myself and familiarizing myself a little bit more with the comprehensive plan as I've worked here, I do believe that it does tie in rather nicely. As far as feasibility, that is something we're going to have to explore a little bit more. This plan is just a framework and a vision that we can aspire towards and a framework to use to get there. But we know that the development that is envisioned in this plan would take many years and is not going to happen overnight. We just met with the developer today, actually, and had preliminary discussions, nothing serious at this point. And they did give us a number of things to think about as we go forward. There was some good feedback there and a good dialogue. So feasibility and implementation, that's going to be a major part as we go forward. Again, we're not going to acquire all the parcels overnight, and we are not going to implement or redevelop everything in a short time.
Thank you, Stephen. So we're here to approve the West 2nd Street District Development Plan. Motion by Alderman Fisher, second by Alderman Wagner. And Alderman Wagner would like to make a comment.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to address the same subject, and Mr. Pinker has done an excellent job of being sort of the conscience of the planning function here, in that what he's done, and he said so tonight in his comments. He can tell you pretty much what page the feasibility was addressed in the comprehensive plan, in the plan itself, and how it meets the requirements of the comprehensive plan as well as the economic development plan. And he's done a pretty good job. I think, and I also share his frustration with the fact that some of the agencies that are going to be most affected by it, that is Main Street, Marshfield, Mackey, they did not make an appearance and go on record one way or the other. So just for the sake of being obstinate, I'm going to assume that they're happy with it, and assume that they are endorsing the project by their silence, which is rather strange, but nevertheless, that's all we're left with. We've worked with these folks. Oh, and by the way, EDB, and I don't think there was a representative of the EDB at any of the hearings either, or at the hearing before the CDA. So anyway, I'm comfortable with the findings as they are. We've at least satisfied ourselves that it is feasible and it fits within the framework of the existing plans. So I'm going to support it.
Alderman Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with a lot of the comments that Alderman Wagner made, and I appreciate Mr. Pinker's comments always. One thing I do want to say is I agree it's disappointing that some of those entities maybe didn't attend the public hearing, but just something to keep in mind as well is that there was a presence on the oversight committee. So EDB did have two representatives on that committee. I was one of them as both an alderman and EDB member. There was also another citizen member from the EDB on that ad hoc committee. And also Main Street Marshfield, Kaylee Gomez, the director, also did serve on that oversight committee. So even though there was not a presence at the public hearing, which I agree, I would have liked to have had them go on the record. I agree. I just want to make sure that there's a correction to the public for those sitting here or watching that there was involvement. I don't know if Mackey was ever involved through the entire process, but the other two entities were. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes. Item T, request to authorize staff to execute a contract with GovHR for professional recruitment services in connection with finding a new development services director, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Can we just first acknowledge that was 8-1? That was not all ayes.
Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. 8 ayes and 1 no.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Josh Miller resigned as the Development Services Director quite a while ago. His last working day was March 11th. That's more than 3 months ago. So we've been going without a head of that department for some time. We did advertise to fill the vacant position and received 19 applications. A search team made up of members of the elected body and staff members did interviews of 4 people. Our top candidate did ultimately turn us down, citing personal reasons. It was an individual from out of state who had some family things to go through. And ultimately, the search team felt that none of the other 3 candidates really had the full depth and breadth of qualifications for the position. So we decided to repost, which we did in early May. And after taking applications for, I think, 3+ weeks, we did not get one single application from reposting. And that may well be because nobody new was looking at our advertising. We actually put it out in a few more places the second time around, but nobody that wasn't coming to our door in March came to our door in May either. So I did go to a conference in early June, my annual WCMA City Managers Association conference in Lake Geneva. And there I talked with a recruiter on behalf of GovHR. Now I've known the firm GovHR for quite a while. Actually, a couple of city administrators have gone to work for them after leaving public employment. They're a well-respected firm that helps place executive level positions in local government in Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, and the surrounding areas. And like I said, they're very highly thought of. So I did get connected with one of their recruiters who followed up with me. Her name was Lori Peterson. We talked about what they have to offer and really looked at, they have multiple options, but we really looked at 2. One being what they call full scope recruitment, which would cost $23,500. That would be the full deal, which would include not only the normal things you would picture with recruitment, but actually leading the process, doing the coordinating interviews, candidate screening, background checks, and all that. The other option she suggested we would want to think about is called professional outreach recruitment. That's really on the other end of the spectrum. That's where we're mainly using their resources and what they bring to bear to try and find a candidate. It's a cost of $6,000. They have really a lot of outreach to people who are looking for jobs and for what they call passive job seekers. Very similar to the firm we used that helped us to find an HR director who wonderfully starts on Tuesday next week. We can all celebrate that when Sarah comes on board. But they know of people who are quietly looking, but not really responding to ads. They're just kind of what they call passive job seekers. So with all the different places they advertise, all the fingers they have out there in the market and the people that they have connections with personally, she felt that might be a good source for us to consider if in fact we feel we can handle the other pieces on staff. When I told her we have an HR director coming on board on July 5th, she said, great, you'll probably be able to handle the details of coordinating interviews and the procedural things that you'll need to accomplish along with your search. So my recommendation to the council is we have direction and authorization to me to execute an agreement with GovHR under the professional services outreach recruitment proposal that you have in your packet for $6,000 to help recruiting a new development services director. This cost was not included in the 2022 budget, but in checking with the finance staff, we can certainly cover it by savings we've achieved by not having this position filled, having it be vacant for more than 90 days. So my recommendation is authorization to exercise an agreement with GovHR.
We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman Peschel. And Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, I just have a question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. For Steve, do you have a gauge as to why when we reposted it the second time, there was no interest? I mean, can you pinpoint anything?
Well, I think we actually reposted the position of HR director, and the first time we got 20-some applicants, the second time we got, I think, 2 of our own, and then we got the 2 that were referred to us by Westfall Staffing. So I think what happens if you're reposting within 30, 45 days of the first time around, I mean, it's with the hope that somebody happens to be looking that wasn't looking, a month or more before, which I think is kind of a crapshoot. And in this case, we just found that, when we put it out in March, so when we came along in May, there just was nobody new. Now, they might have looked at it and thought, is there something wrong, that they had to repost it, they can't find candidates. But I think it's more likely that it's a tight market. In fact, the recruiter, Lori Peterson, told me what I've heard from other local human resources directors in our area. The market at all levels of organizations is very hard to find candidates for. It just is. It doesn't matter if you're, what jobs you're looking for. It seems like people are having a hard time finding candidates. And that seems to apply here. So I was a little surprised that we didn't get any, but I wasn't shocked that we, by not getting many, because I think that's what happens sometimes when you come right back to the well one more time.
Just one follow-up question, if I may. Do you think the position is in line from a market standpoint, from compensation? I'm talking a compensation standpoint.
Well, that's a really, really good question. I did talk to Lori about that in some depth. I shared with her our pay range, our job description. Her thought was, from a pay standpoint, we're pretty much in line, at least in the range that we're talking about is something that's competitive for our area. She did suggest we take another look back at the requirements. One of the things that I was talked to about by the recruiter that I met at the conference was a lot of employers are not adapting to the fact that there are fewer people out there. So you might want to back off a little bit on your expectations. If you're saying master's degree required or master's degree preferred, you might be scaring away applicants. Now, the long and short of it, though, is, you want to get the most qualified applicants. If you think it requires a master's degree, you want to say that. But that when the candidate pool is small and you put heavy requirements in terms of number of years of experience or degrees, you're probably going to turn some people away. So that's one of the things that they want to look at when if in fact we do contract with them, before they send this out to all their various sources. Do we feel like the pay and the job description with the required experience and background for schooling, is it something that's going to attract candidates here in 2022?
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Eight ayes and 1 no. Thank you. Item U, request to appoint Mike O'Reilly to the Economic Development Board, replacing Pete Handler, presented by me. You all see in your packet? Motion by Alderman Fisher, second by Alderman Peschel. Any discussion? None? Please vote. And yes, Mike, you can vote for yourself. All ayes, thank you very much. Request to appoint Kayla Marks to the Library Board. You saw in your packet her resume. Alderman Varsho, motion. Alderman Fire, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All ayes, thank you very much. Item W, adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Chapter 19.851E. Deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specific public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Review parameters for acquirement of temporary easements on Lincoln Avenue from 5th Street to Adler Road. Possible assistance for a project located within TIF District Number 10. And closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Chapter 19.851G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategic to be adopted by the board with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Update on municipal legal cases. So you can all take leave if you're not here for the closed session. Thank you.
A motion in a second.
We have a motion by Alderman Witzel and a second by, I did not see that because it went too fast. I'm just going to guess it was Alderman Spiros. And we're ready to vote, please.
What, Mr. Wagner, Mr. Witzel?
Is that all who wants to vote? All ayes. Thank you very much. We are in